Hey everyone, I'm Brian.
I'm Tyler.
And we're Gardener in Love. Hey guys, so we are finally getting around to planting some of the cool plants that we got at the Garden Jubilee Festival a few videos back. If you haven't checked out that video, be sure you do. We went over to my parents' house in a very small town in North Carolina and attended a garden festival, and it was so fun. We had the best day. But we also picked up some really unique plants while we were there, and we are going to get those in the ground along with a few others to take care of a partial shade place in our garden.
So first I want to talk about the plants that we got from the Garden Jubilee. So this one here is Lady's Mantle. The scientific name is Aucamelamalis.
I think so.
Aucamelamalis. It sounds like a joke, honestly. But whenever the gardening season starts, we always make a wish list in one of our phones for plants we would like to add to the garden. Now sometimes you'll see, like the moon garden, we planned all of that and bought all of it at once, but the rest of our garden is kind of from our wish list, things that we would like to plant, and we find a spot for it and we plant it. And so on our wish list this year was Lady's Mantle, and surprisingly enough, we had a very hard time finding it in Charlotte. It didn't seem to be a very common thing, and so I was fully ready to go online and order it and have it be, whatever condition it was when it got here, just to get it into our garden. But luckily we found it at the Garden Jubilee, which I was very excited about.
Yeah.
So we got two of them. So this is, for us anyway, in North Carolina, a part shade to shade plant. It has these kind of like green leaves, green-gray leaves that can pretty much go with anything in your garden, I think. And in the late spring, early summer, it will push up little yellow bloom stalks. It doesn't get super tall. It maxes out around about 18 inches. So this is a really nice plant to put maybe as a border or maybe as like a second row plant if you got some super low stuff in front of it. And then once the blooms are done, you could leave the blooms and they'll go to seeds, I think. Yep. And it will kind of spread around in your garden, which I think is what we would like.
Yeah, that's
since we only bought two of these, we would like to have a little bit more of grouping over time. But if you don't want this to spread, you can easily cut back the bloom stalks, and then you'll just have this nice green foliage in your garden, which is still a nice little accent.
Yeah, so I actually don't think that spreading around is a huge deal. It has these gorgeous leaves, and they're a little bit furry, and so the water beads up on them really beautifully. It's got those gorgeous little, very soft yellow flowers, so I'd be happy with the whole corner of this.
Yeah, I think this is a really great addition to any garden. I'm sure you could find a spot for it.
Yeah.
So the other plant that we got from the Garden Jubilee, and I'm going to have to read the tag on this. So this is sea lavender, is more of the common name.
That's a very interesting tag.
Yeah, it's like a tinfoil that they stamped the name into. So the scientific name is Limonium latifolium. I probably just butchered that. But this is something that we're going to be adding to the Union Garden, which if you saw our garden tour, that's our section where we're adding in a gravel path eventually. It's got all purple blooms. And so this will be kind of in that purple-blue family. So it's just foliage right now, but eventually it will have kind of like an airy type bloom, almost kind of like a blue baby's breath is what you related it to.
Yeah, I believe it's in the sea holly family, and I think that you could also call it, it's also called a sea lavender. And so the sea holly has very different blooms than this. This is sort of, I would say, the same kind of thing. One giant stalk comes up out of the plant and then puts on this very large cloud-like bloom that sort of resembles baby's breath, but a very light purple color. It's very beautiful.
There isn't as much information online about this plant, so I am not sure if it's gonna spread itself around in our garden. Maybe it will. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this grows because this isn't something that we have ever seen before, especially in bloom. Anywho, I'm excited to get this one in the ground and see it bloom. I don't think that it will probably bloom this year, so it'll just be foliage for this year, but next spring we'll have a really nice bloom to show you guys.
Yeah, so that does it for all the plants that were from the Garden Jubilee Festival, but we are sort of filling a hole in our garden, and we've noticed some spaces lately that are sort of empty and that we still haven't filled, which I think is always a great opportunity, especially in a part shade area, because we know that we can always put coleus in that space as an annual, and they won't come back next year, but this year they will give us a gorgeous show and have some really interesting color. So this is Wicked Witch coleus from Proven Winners, and we have had this one in the garden before. It's one of our favorite coleus because it just has this gorgeous color, this bright chartreuse green edging, and it's just so pretty. The texture is really nice.
So when you buy coleus, sometimes you might see them have one big giant stalk in the middle that's just going straight up. But the nice thing about the Proven Winners coleus is they are really well branched. Yeah. You can see there's a ton of branches in here. And even if you find one that is not super branched, all you need to do is go in and just pop off the stem, and it will encourage more wider growth and more branching. This one is doing a great job of that already, which is why we love the Proven Winners coleuses. Another thing about these coleus is that they bloom later. So typically, we don't grow coleus for the blooms. They will shoot up kind of like a 6-inch long bloom at the end of the season. But once they get to that point, they kind of stop putting on their foliage. So if you do see your coleus putting up that bloom and you want to keep the foliage growth going, you can simply do the same thing. You can pop off the bloom and it will encourage more branching. But these look really great, and they're going to make an amazing statement back there in the garden.
Yeah, they're about 20, they get 24 to 40 inches tall and wide, and so we're only going to use 2 of those in this space. All right, so the next thing that we're going to pop in that space, just as in the front as a border, right in front of the lady's mantle, is our spot-on pulmonaria. We told you guys about this in a recent video, and it's just so interesting and unique. It will fill out to, I believe, about 14 to 16 inches tall and wide. And so that is a nice big round mound, bigger than we've got here, so I can't wait to see it fill in. But this has pink flowers that fade to blue. I think it'll be a gorgeous statement right in the edge of this flower bed, and I think we're also going to have to end up getting a few more of them.
Yeah, so we're trialing this for Walter's Garden here in the south. So if this does well, and I think it's going to in the spot that we're putting it, we're going to go get some more. So stay tuned.
Yep. So that's all the plants that we're planting today. Let's go get started.
Actually, before we get started, I wanted to show you guys the foxgloves that we grew from seed. They're finally blooming. They're so pretty. We woke up a couple mornings ago, and it just seemed like overnight they were all blooming, and it was really beautiful to wake up to. The lavender is really pretty. We haven't grown that color before, and it's all just very soft colors, which is really pleasing in this spot with kind of the harsh hot pink of the coneflowers. So again, the varieties here are Dalmatian peach, that's obviously the peach color, and then Camelot lavender. We also have Camelot cream in here somewhere, but those have not peeked their heads up yet. And then back in the moon garden, we've got Camelot white that I have seen a couple of bloom stalks on. But I wanted to show these to you because I wasn't sure if they will be in bloom the next time we do a garden tour, but it's such a pleasing sight to see something you grew from seed for months and months finally bloom. So if you guys haven't grown stuff from seed indoors, I highly recommend it. It's super pleasing. All right, we've got everything all on the ground. I'm over here in the Union Garden, and this is on our shade side. I've got one of the latimoniums right here, or one of the sea lavenders, that's easier to say. One sea lavender here, and then one on the other side next to our butterfly bush. And this will get somewhere between 18 to 30 inches tall with the bloom stalk. So probably right here, and it'll be kind of like a cloud of blue blooms, which I think will be a really nice complement to the hosta here, and it'll give us some height behind the heucheras, and maybe the heuchera blooms will be up at the same time as this. That would be really cool, but who knows? We'll see. I'm not sure what time of year this will bloom. I'm assuming early spring, but you can see here all of this is filling in really nicely, and we're going to start to introduce some color on this side instead of just foliage. So this will be our first one. So let's go over to the south side garden, and I'll show you the other planting. All right, so now we're over here in the south side bed, and here's our grouping of plants for now. So we've got the spot-on pulmonaria, the lady's mantle, and then the wicked witch back here. And we've got kind of a tiered height. So I don't think the lady's mantle is going to bloom for us this year. Maybe we'll get something out of the lungwort, I'm not sure, but the coleus will get really big. We actually had wicked witch in this exact spot last year, and it loved it. It got really, really big. And right here behind us, we've got one of the summerific hibiscus. I think this one is evening rose, and it is just starting to bloom. So this will have hot pink, almost red blooms on it. So we'll have some nice contrast over here, especially once the lady's mantle has its yellow blooms next year. We do have drip in this bed already, so all of this will be getting watered every day at this point. We're real hot here in North Carolina now, so we're running our drip every day. Some days I even come out here and run it a second time in the afternoon just because this really gets baked back here now that we don't have those big trees anymore. We get some hot, hot sun, not in this particular spot, but in our backyard. This will be kind of part shade. We'll get some morning sun, and then we'll get a little bit before lunchtime, and then after that it's kind of dappled, and then once we get into the evening, it's complete shade. So all of these plants should perform pretty well here, and eventually, I think, we would like to fill up this whole front with some lungworts. I think that would be a really cool pop to have, and I think it would add some funkiness to our garden, which is what we're trying to lean more towards, unique stuff. So very excited to see this fill in. We got some fresh mulch on here. We got everything watered in. When you're planting stuff, you want to make sure when you're done planting, you go back and water everything in to settle the soil, get the roots nice and wet, especially in these hot, hot months as we move forward to summer.
All right, so we've got our plants all in the ground and watered in, and they are looking beautiful. We'll be sure to share an update with you on this part of the garden as the season progresses.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. That really helps us out. And if you are enjoying our content, make sure you subscribe so you get all of our updates. As for now, we're going to sign off, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!